I'm going to get us started off, a nice smooth pace. And first, I ask everybody how you doing. Say something in the chat to let me know how you're doing today. I'm gonna let you guys kind of pour in. We have thousands and thousands of people that registered. The Zoom capacity is 3,000, but we had over, I think, I forgot how many thousand, maybe 5,000-6,000 people that register. So it'll just be first come, first serve. And then if people can't make it in, then they can catch the next one. But what's going on, everybody? Let's see. I want to see what cities, what cities are you guys from? Hey, Elena and Carrie and Sheba and Lee Willingham and Tracy Anderson and LB Robinson and Yvette Rainey. Let me see. I want to see what cities you're coming from here. Let's see. Louisville. Oh man, Louisville, my city. My city is going through it right now. I couldn't believe it. I was, when I saw this stuff going on in the Ville, I was just stunned because, Louisville's always had a racism issue. Louisville, remember Muhammad Ali grew up in Louisville, and Muhammad Ali left Louisville and said, he said, I ain't never coming back. And I'm gonna tell you, I did the same thing when I turned 18. I said, I'm getting out of Louisville. I'm never coming back. So, when I see what's going on in my city, it made me think about a lot of things that I saw, growing up in Louisville. I remember my best friend, Greg Wilkins, got shot and killed when we were both about 25, 26 years old. He got shot in the head in front of his daughter in his house, and by some people he didn't even know. They just broke in because I guess they thought he was a dope dealer or something. And and I remember the cops dragging their feet, not really investigating. It really was very frustrating because it was kind of like, oh, well, another dead nigga, who cares? That was kind of the mindset that they had. So, it's not surprising to see all this, but it is a little bit surprising because even though, the situation was messed up and it was tough, it's almost like the city's gotten worse, like it's gone backward, and I just find that really sad. So, but I just want you to know I'm watching very closely. Let's see, Terry Davis from DC. I see Concierge Services from the Bronx. Tommy Glover from Houston. I love Houston. Willie D, my friend, is there. Willie's going to be in my wedding, by the way. He invited himself to be in my wedding, but I was okay with it. Anybody else invited themselves, I would have been like, no, thank you. But Willie's a good guy, and I really like him. So I said, okay, sure, why not? I think it would be great. Nicole, Detroit. Let's see, Burnett, Trinidad. Okay, Shakira from Brooklyn. Sinitra from Chicago. Noah from Los Angeles. Tacoma Park, Maryland from Michael Powell. San Francisco, Chicago, Silver Springs, Maryland, Conyers, Georgia for Sheila, Las Vegas for Kimberly, Dr. Juan and Sheila from Atlanta. All right, I love it. All right, speaking of doctor, I got to brag a little bit. I hope that's okay. I think and I'm going to tell you why I'm going to do this. I hope it doesn't sound pretentious, but I got to brag. Dr. Alicia, my fiance, that beautiful black woman who's given me the honor of being my wife next year. The wedding was going to be in July, but we had to move it back because of COVID. So it's July 10th. 2021, same church, same everything. You're all invited. She actually was just promoted to full professor at the university she teaches at. And I'm not going to I have to be cautious about how much information I give about family members. So I don't want people blowing up her email or nothing. But she's a professor of social work, and she's now a full professor. And in case you don't know, if you know anything about academia, I'll just explain it real quick. You have a hierarchy of professors. You got the adjuncts, which, are there for a while, but there's no long-term commitment. Then you have the tenure track, which is almost like dating somebody to decide if you want to marry them, meaning that if you're good enough, if they like you enough, then they'll give you tenure. And then you've got the tenured professors, which making tenure is a really big deal. Most professors never become full professors. To become a full, it's like, the difference between going to the NBA and becoming an NBA all-star. She became an all-star, so I was really proud of her. We got the letter. And the reason I'm talking about this is because, not just because I'm proud of her, but because I think that we have to go out of our way, especially as men, because we're kind of raised to be a little bit self-absorbed, where the women celebrate us, but we're not so quick to celebrate them as much as we should. And I said, you know what, I'm gonna go out of my way to celebrate this and really, just brag a little bit about her black girl magic, and just say that I think that's that I'm proud of her. So I hope that's okay. I don't want to seem like we're bragging, but I got a smart black woman that I get to sleep with every day, and I tell you that's a real blessing. So get you a nice black woman. That'll make your life better. just pick the right ones. Don't be picking them crazy ones, because y'all know we got the crazy ones out there, and the crazy men too. So but you're here, you're B1, you're like part of this tribe. So that means you're a good one. All right. So anyway, so today for Black Movie Night, let me just kind of give you some thoughts here in terms of where we're going with this. You guys know the purpose of Black Movie Night. Let me just reiterate the purpose. The purpose of Black Movie Night is basically to create, a Black Hollywood. That's it. I mean, we really, I don't know about you, but I get sick and damn tired of Hollywood, messing up our images, making us look crazy, doing the coon fest in every other movie. In fact, I don't know if you guys saw this or not, but during the all the protests and riots and everything, do you guys know that one of the top most viewed movies on Netflix was The Help? Like literally, like white people were watching The Help to learn about Black people. And and I was like, really? And so, that's the issue, right? That we have just so many misperceptions of who we are being perpetuated, so much fraudulent representation of Black people being pushed throughout the world, not just by white folks, but by Black folks. You've got false leadership out here. You got people out here just making you look crazy. You got rappers, some of them, not all of them, but some of them, about as ignorant as the day is long. Y'all know what I'm talking about. Come on now. I love hip hop, but y'all know some of these rappers are stupid, crazy, self-destructive, and just as bad as the damn KKK. And basically you're getting a whole lot of just misrepresentation on your people. And so, we got some choices, right? We could go and hold a march and sing "We Shall Overcome" and call up Al Sharpton, and maybe he can come by and bring his perm with him and give a little speech and make everybody feel better. Or we could go beg white folks to make better movies, right? We could beg white people to stop being white and to stop doing what they've been doing for hundreds of years, right? That's an option, right? Or we could, take plan C, which is to build our own, create something that's ours, create something that's better than, the fake Hollywood, create something that's, that really reflects the uniqueness and the brilliance and the capability of Black people. So that's what Black Movie Night's all about. Black Movie Night is basically an effort to create an economy. It's working. It's working. Like literally, I think we've crossed well over 100,000 people that have come to the Black Movie Nights. And basically what you're doing is you're creating the mechanisms that develop an industry, right? You need production, distribution, and monetization. So we've got the production. We've got the filmmakers, we got the directors, producers, writers, actors, actresses. We've got all these great talented Black people out here. Nobody's more talented than Black people. We know this, right? So you got all these folks out here making great movies, doing great stuff. Everybody from people like, like the Byron Hertz to Marcus Small, who made the Melanin Code, which you guys love, to Tariq Nasheed doing Hidden Colors. Dorian Chandler did Resurrecting Black Wall Street. Tierra K.J. Williams did Raising a Black Scholar. Raheem Shabazz is doing Elementary Genocide. You've got so many great Black filmmakers out here. Madam President. I mean, the list goes on and on and on. So you've got the production side, right? And then at that point, well, what do you need next? You need distribution. Distribution. Why do you think Tyler Perry signed the deal with Lionsgate? Why do you think that so many Black filmmakers have to, or feel that they have to partner with, companies like Netflix or Lionsgate or Warner Brothers or whatever, right? They have to do that because white folks typically control distribution. Historically, they've controlled distribution, which is getting your product out to the masses. Well, guess what? This platform, it's not as big as Netflix, but we can say that we can reach about 4 million people on Facebook. We know we have maybe about we're approaching 1 million total YouTube subscribers, maybe 700,000, something like that. We have 100,000 people in the Black Business School. We have 300,000 or 400,000 of Black folks on email lists. So we can distribute, we can get it out to the masses. And then the last piece of building an industry is what they call monetization. And that's easy. That sounds just like it. It is what it sounds like, right? It's the ability to make turn $1 into $1.50, right? And then you rinse and repeat, right? So you invest your money on the front end. You make a great film. You distribute it to the masses. You've got a great group of people that believe in the mission and have a need for the product and support Black businesses and want to be a part of that, which is where you come in, and they support these films. And guess what? For every $1 you put in, you're making $1.50. You can then go back and take that money and reinvest it. Next thing you know, you're making bigger, better projects. You're making blackbuster films, not blockbuster, blackbuster films that have budgets over $1 million. So my prediction is that right out of Black Movie Night, I'm going to lay this out here. This is the vision that I have. This is something I believe we can do. I want us to be able to make a $1 million movie in the Black community. Like, I want us on this very platform to be able to say that we have this film, the budget is over $1 million, and we can confidently make this investment because we know that the audience is there as well. That folks are going to show up for this film the same way Black folks showed up when Disney put out the Black Panther. When Disney put out the Black Panther, y'all made Disney about $1 billion, about $1 billion. And I'm gonna tell you, Disney ain't giving that money back. They're not in the habit of giving money away to Black people, right? They're in the habit of giving money to white people. But we're not mad at Disney. We're not mad at them for doing what they do. What I'm more mad at is when we don't do what we do, right? When we don't do what we can do, right? So don't worry about them doing what they're gonna do. They're gonna keep doing what they do. White folks ain't gonna stop being white, right? They're not gonna stop hustling in their own way. But I want you to focus on doing what you do, which is building businesses and power in your own community. Now, let's go a little bit deeper here. Why is it that tonight on Black Movie Night, we're deviating a little bit? Tonight's movie star, so to speak, typically we show a Black film, we bring in the director. Our goal is to make somebody famous that night. That's the goal, right? So if you have a great Black film and nobody's seeing it, email, let me give you the email address. Somebody type it in so others can see it, because people always ask me to repeat the email address. I'm gonna say it really loud and clear twice. And then if you could, please type it in so that other people can see it, so they can write it down, because we want to help anybody that has something good that they want people to see. The email is producer@flynubianmedia.net. Producer@flynubianmedia. Wait, did I say .net? Wait, crap. I think it's .com. Sorry, I think it's producer. That's so bad. I'm sorry. I said .net. I meant to say .com. See, I messed that up. Producer@flynubianmedia.com. So email producer@flynubianmedia.com and send over your film, send over a link, and we'll review it. We can't promise anything, but we'll take a look and we'll do our best to see what we can do to support you. Anyway, tonight, instead of actually watching a film, I decided that a better film to watch in light of what's going on in this country is a film that stars one of the greatest human beings in the history of this planet by the name of Malcolm X. Malcolm X gave a couple of great speeches, one that I love called the Ballot or the Bullet, and the other one called the House Negro and the Field Negro. And what I thought I could do for you guys is give an interpretation of the speech that will allow us to figure out how from the grave Malcolm can contribute to important conversations that need to be had in the year 2020, in the years 2021 and beyond. You see, right now, you do have a unique opportunity. The world is different, than what it was before. I mean, you really have a scenario that I've never seen. I never thought I'd see this. I remember talking about Black men being killed by the cops in the 1990s and in the 2000s, and nobody listened. Black people didn't listen. Black people told me I was too radical for even talking about this, right? I said, why is it that Black men and women are so invisible? I don't get this. Well, something happens to a white woman, everybody cries, everybody's sad, everybody wants justice. Something happens to 1,000 Black men, 1,000 Black women, nobody cares, right? And I did not understand that. But when you listen to people like Dr. Claude Anderson, who really should be included in these conversations that they're having about, making things right with Black people. You can't talk about making things right with Black people if you're not talking about reparations. Dear white people, all white people who are watching, because there may be some white people in here now, because now they're all interested in Black people stuff. So I'm sure our white subscriber rate has gone up 1,000% in the last 2 weeks, and that's fine. You're welcome. We're not here to hate anybody. We don't hate anybody. We just love ourselves. So our love for ourselves has nothing to do with hating you, even though you're probably thinking that we should hate you or we should be mad at you because of the horrible things you've done, right? But I don't spend time on hate. You're welcome to be here. But seriously, if you want to have a conversation about making things right with Black people, you must discuss reparations. You must discuss access to capital. You must discuss the 40 acres and a mule that was promised to Black people right after slavery that was never delivered. You must discuss ways in which Black people can actually get support if you want to be supportive. I'm not going to say no to the support, but it must be with very few strings attached. It can't come in the form of some sort of program run by a white woman that's going to basically train little black boys into how to grow up and become white women themselves. That's not going to work. It can't come in the form of some overseer package where you're running our schools. No. You don't need to run our schools. You've proven yourselves to be unqualified to run schools that have a majority of black children. We've let you do that and you screwed it up. Those kids are coming out, they can't hardly read. They don't even know how to spell their parents' names. So no, you can't. We don't want you running this. I'm not saying everybody. I'm not going to speak for everybody. I'm not the representative for all black people, but I think it's very dangerous for black people to allow their children to be educated by a bunch of white people. Malcolm X once said, if you recall, that only a fool would let his enemy educate his children, right? So why are you letting those people molest the minds of your kids? That doesn't make any sense. Right. So it might come in the form of supporting independent black schools like Freedom Home Academy International. We've been in long discussions with them. Marcus Klein, who runs that school, one of the best schools in the country. We made a donation. We gave them $5,000 because that's what we can do. We're going to give them some more. We're going to give them a few thousand more. But you know, they don't need $1,000, $5,000, $10,000 donations. They need $100 million. How about that? How about you go in your deep white pockets, and instead of putting $1 billion behind poorly conceived IPOs or startup companies in Silicon Valley, go to a school like a Freedom Home Academy International and give them $100 million with no strings attached, and with the simple request that they go educate as many black children as possible and use black teachers to do that. Those are the kinds of things that I want us to look for. What I want us to really be very cautious of is symbolism. They're going to feed you symbolism all day long. Many folks lean on the fact that black people have very low self-esteem. And when your self-esteem is low, you're just walking around like a little homeless girl looking for somebody to tell you that you're cute because your daddy never did it when you were growing up, right? You're looking for somebody to buy you a bag of Fritos and get you, a pimp to take you to Shake Shack. And then next thing you know, you'll do anything for this man because he's the first man that's ever shown you love. I need y'all to stop acting like political and economic hoes. I'm serious. I need y'all to stop that. I need you to stop whoring yourself out to anybody who pays you a compliment or gives you a fake little award. I encourage you to have enough self-esteem to sit down at the table and demand what you want. Demand what again, I'm not against taking what is owed to us from white folks. If corporations want to step up and write big checks, then I'm happy for all of you that'll take. I'm not going to take those checks. We don't do corporate sponsorships. We don't do government funding with the Black Business School. We like to stay independent. But I want you to get as many of those checks as you can possibly get. And I want you to allocate and deploy those funds in the black community, but you must think about it in the right way. So why are we watching the Ballot of the Bullet? Well, because these white folks, these same folks that were marching with you last week are going to be asking for your vote next week. I'm not here. I reiterate, I am not here to tell you who to vote for. I'm not here to tell you how to vote, if you should vote. I'm here to tell you to do one thing, think it through and make the best decision that works for you. I'm here to ask you to do one thing. Pursue the thing that we have been fighting for since slavery, which is freedom. That's it. The best thing I can offer you and to support you in is your quest for freedom. So freedom to me means doing what you want to do. That's all freedom. Freedom just means doing what you want to do and not doing what somebody else is telling you to do. If you're doing what somebody else is telling you to do, or you let somebody harass you into doing something, right? Or somebody voter shaming you into voting for a politician that you don't want to support, or letting somebody guilt trip you into doing something, that's not freedom. That's not. Give me a yes or no if you follow what I'm saying. Give me a yes or no. I don't see that as freedom. So when I tell you, when I go out here, think about this, process this for a minute. Here's two things you want to think about in terms of alarm bells that let you know that white folks ain't done being white and America is still America. Two things. One, you're having all these conversations about race, but they're going to the same usual suspects. They're still going to the Al Sharptons. They're ignoring the Dr. Claude Andersons. They're not having a conversation with him about powernomics. They're not talking to black folks that really know how to run businesses and who really know what the people need. They're going to the same old bougie folks that are utilizing their connection with the black community as an opportunity for them to build wealth and to get, to become successful individually. Right? That's a huge red flag for me. And I really think that this is also going to translate into something that would only occur during an election year. much of this is happening because it is an election year. If this were 2019 instead of 2020, most of these conversations will be very different. So I just don't want you to get played by the okie doke. Like Malcolm says, I don't want you to be hoodwinked, bamboozled, run amok, led astray, and all these other things. And there was one more point I was going to make on that, and I lost my point. Damn, I hate when that happens. You ever have a thought that goes in your head and then you're like, that's a good thought, and you try to hold on to it and it just disappears. But here's the point. There you go. See, it just came back. I think you have to be cautious also about this fact. Okay, so many of you who've watched this podcast or who've been in this space for any significant period of time, you know that I have never told Black people who to vote for. You know that I've never told you that you're not welcome here if you're a Trump supporter. I've never said to a Trump supporter, you can't come up in here because you're supporting Trump. I've never said you can't come here because you support Biden. I never said you can't come in here because you didn't vote. I've never said you can't come in here because you're Green Party. I've never said that. All I've said is do what's best for you. All I've said is think it through and make the decision that works best for you and your family. Am I right? Give me a confirmation if you've seen this, if you know this, right? So and a lot of you do know this. I have never told Black people what to do when they get in that voters booth, because I believe that is a fundamental freedom that you should have, that no one should be allowed to disturb. So if you know for a fact that I have never told Black people not to vote or who to vote for, well, why is it that there are so many people who have a problem, a big problem with what I have been saying to you? You don't understand. I got banned from Ebony magazine by one of the editors because she said he's telling Black people not to vote. I said, find me a recording anywhere where I told Black people not to vote or where I told Black people who to vote for. I've never done that. I've never done that. So the reason I bring this up is not because it's about me. I'm used to that, right? You have propaganda, you have misinformation, you have people that want to manipulate you, mislead you, all this other stuff. That's going to continue to happen. But I wanted to point that out as a red flag in the sense that, in this simple sense, why is it that some people have such a big problem with Black people making their own decisions? Why is it that people consider it to be a threat when someone simply says to Black people, look, just do what works best for you? White folks are going to do what's best for them. Politicians are sure as hell going to do what's best for them. You do what's best for you. They're going to be selfish. You be selfish. It doesn't mean you should vote for a certain politician and not vote. It means you should decide what to do based on what's going to work for you and your family. So I want to lay that out there. And that to me is a signal. When somebody doesn't really want you to do what's best for you, you have to ask yourself, do you really have my best interest at heart? Or do you have your best interest at heart? Are you thinking about me or are you thinking about you? Because you say you're thinking about me, but every time I tell you what I want to do, you tell me that I shouldn't do that and that I should do what you want me to do. So it sounds like you're thinking about you and you're not thinking about me. So what I'm here to just say to you guys is, and this is why I wanted Malcolm. Malcolm, I love the fact that we can access Malcolm because, there's something about being deceased that makes people immortal and almost untouchable. And there's something about being alive and in the trenches that makes people, throw swings at you and stuff like that, right? So maybe when I die, right, like I'm not scared of death. I'm not scared of death because I know the minute I die, I think I'll become an angel or something. I'll become immortal. I can speak, I can speak as one of the gods, and people will go back and watch old videos I made when I was here, because we appreciate things when they're gone, right? So I went to a funeral today and I told Alicia, I said, I want to actually create my own eulogy so that when I'm gone, the words will have more impact than they will while I'm here. So I don't want to die. I don't plan to die. I don't think I'm going to die, but I'm not scared to die. And if I die, that'll be a great opportunity for the words to sink in a little bit differently than they do when you're here. Because when you're just here, it's easy for people to just get mad and throw mud. But Malcolm's among the gods. He's among the ancestors now. And I want to lean on words from one of the ancestors, one of the most cherished, respected ancestors, one of the greatest human beings in the history of this country, the history of this world, one of the first people that your child should learn about when they go to school. And I want him to speak on what we're dealing with right now. Because as I said before, white folks ain't gonna stop being white. They haven't stopped being white. And I'm utterly fascinated by how much that Malcolm said in 1964, how much it resonates in the year 2020. That is another sign that America isn't moving forward as much as it claims to be. Okay, so those of you who are watching online, I want you guys to know that the live stream, I'm going to shut that off in a minute, and we're going to watch the ballot or the bullet. After we're done, I'll give you some key points. We'll break down some key points, and we'll do some Q&A and bounce back. If you want to register, if you want to come on in, you still can. There's still a little bit of space. You can go to blackmovienight.net. That's blackmovienight.net. All right, guys. So let me go ahead, without further ado, let's go ahead and get to the real deal here. Let's get Brother Malcolm on screen. Thank you for indulging me with by letting me express that point of view, and I hope that benefited you. So give me a second here. Let me play this. And by the way, if you get the urge to chat, please don't do that. We did a vote last time, and the majority of you voted, 2/3 of you voted that you would rather not have people chatting during the screening. Now, I didn't turn the chat off because I want you to be able to chat before the film, and I'd have to go turn it off before, like all together, and I want you to be able to have some conversation. But if you could, we can do it kind of like voluntary social distancing. If you could, just out of respect for the other members, don't do any chatting or anything. Or if you want to chat to a particular person, I think it'll let you send a message to a particular person, but don't send it to the whole group. That way people won't get upset. But actually the image on the screen is actually the text from the speech. The actual video from the speech, I don't think there's video of the actual speech. So anyway, let's go ahead and get this started. Let me hit the play button here. All right. Okay, here we go. We did a vote last time. Hold on, let me turn some stuff off here. All right.
Reverend Cleage, brothers and sisters, and friends, and I see some enemies. I think we'd be fooling ourselves if we had an audience this large and didn't realize that there were some enemies present. This afternoon we want to talk about the ballot or the bullet. The ballot or the bullet explains itself. But before we get into it, since this is the year of the ballot or the bullet, I would like to clarify some things that refer to me personally concerning my own personal position. I'm still a Muslim. That is, my religion is still Islam. My religion is still Islam. I still credit Mr. Muhammad for what I know and what I am. He's the one who opened my eyes. At present, I'm the minister of the newly founded Muslim Mosque Incorporated, which has its offices in the Teresa Hotel right in the heart of Harlem. That's the Black Belt in New York City. And when we realize that Adam Clayton Powell is a Christian minister, he has the Abyssinia Baptist Church, but at the same time he's more famous for his political struggling. And Dr. King is a Christian minister from Atlanta, Georgia, or in Atlanta, Georgia, but he's become more famous for being involved in the civil rights struggle. There's another in New York, Reverend Galamison. I don't know if you've heard of him out here. He's a Christian minister from Brooklyn, but has become famous for his fight against the segregated school system in Brooklyn. Reverend Cleage, right here, is a Christian minister here in Detroit. He's the head of the Freedom Now Party. All of these are Christian ministers. All of these are Christian ministers, but they don't come to us as Christian ministers. They come to us as fighters in some other category. I'm a Muslim minister. The same as they are Christian ministers, I'm a Muslim minister. And I don't believe in fighting today in any one front, but on all fronts. In fact, I'm a black nationalist freedom fighter. Islam is my religion, but I believe my religion is my personal business. It governs my personal life, my personal morals, and my religious philosophy is personal between me and the God in whom I believe, just as the religious philosophy of these others is between them and the God in whom they believe. And this is best this way. Were we to come out here discussing religion, we'd have too many differences from the outstart, and we could never get together. So today, though Islam is my religious philosophy, my political, economic, and social philosophy is black nationalism. You and I... As I say, if we bring up religion, we'll have differences, we'll have arguments, we'll never be able to get together. But if we keep our religion at home, keep our religion in the closet, keep our religion between ourselves and our God, but when we come out here, we have a fight that's common to all of us against the enemy who is common to all of us. The political philosophy of black nationalism only means that the black man should control the politics and the politicians in his own community. The time when white people can come in our community and get us to vote for them so that they can be our political leaders and tell us what to do and what not to do is long gone. By the same token, the time when that same white man, knowing that your eyes are too far open, can send another Negro into the community, get you and me to support him so he can use him to lead us astray, those days are long gone. The political philosophy of black nationalism only means that if you and I are going to live in a black community, and that's where we're going to live, because as soon as you move into as soon as you move out of the black community into their community, it's mixed for a period of time, but they are gone, and you're right there all by yourself. We must understand the politics of our community, and we must know what politics is supposed to produce. We must know what part politics play in our lives. And until we become politically mature, we will always be misled, led astray, or deceived or maneuvered into supporting someone politically who doesn't have the good of our community at heart. So the political philosophy of black nationalism only means that we will have to carry on a political program of re-education to open our people's eyes, make us become more politically conscious, politically mature. And then we will, whenever we get ready to cast our ballot, that ballot will be cast for a man of the community who has the good of the community at heart. The economic philosophy of black nationalism only means that we should own and operate and control the economy of our community. You can't open up a black store in a white community. White man won't even patronize you. And he's not wrong. He got sense enough to look out for himself. And you who don't have sense enough to look out for yourself. The white man is too intelligent to let someone else come and gain control of the economy of his community. But you will let anybody come in and control the economy of your community. Control the housing, control the education, control the jobs, control the businesses under the pretext that you want to integrate. No, you're out of your mind. The economic philosophy of black nationalism only means that we have to become involved in a program of re-education to educate our people into the importance of knowing that when you spend your dollar out of the community in which you live, the community in which you spend your money becomes richer and richer. The community out of which you take your money becomes poorer and poorer. And because these Negroes who have been misled, misguided, are breaking their necks to take their money and spend it with the man. The man is becoming richer and richer, and you're becoming poorer and poorer. And then what happens? The community in which you live becomes a slum. It becomes a ghetto. The conditions become run down. And then you have the audacity to complain about poor housing in a run-down community. Why, you run it down yourself when you take your dollar. And you and I are in a double trap, because not only do we lose by taking our money someplace else and spending it, when we try and spend it in our own community, we're trapped because we haven't had sense enough to set up stores and control the businesses of our community. The man who's controlling the stores in our community is a man who doesn't look like we do. He's a man who doesn't even live in the community. So you and I, even when we try and spend our money in the block where we live or the area where we live, we're spending it with a man who, when the sun goes down, takes that basket full of money in another part of the town. So we're trapped, double trapped, triple trapped. Anywhere we go, we find that we're trapped. And every kind of solution that someone comes up with is just another trap. But the political and economic philosophy of black nationalism, the economic philosophy of black nationalism shows our people the importance of setting up these little stores and developing them and expanding them into larger operations. Woolworth didn't start out big like they are today. They started out with a dime store and expanded and expanded and expanded until today they're all over the country and all over the world, and they're getting some of everybody's money. Now this, what you and I in General Motors, the same way, didn't start out like it is. It started out just a little rat race type operation, and it expanded and expanded until today is where it is right now. And you and I have to make a start. And the best place to start is right in the community where we live. So our people not only have to be re-educated to the importance of supporting black business, but the black man himself has to be made aware of the importance of going into business. And once you and I go into business, we own and operate at least the businesses in our community. What we will be doing is developing a situation wherein we will actually be able to create employment for the people in the community. And once you can create some employment in the community where you live, it will eliminate the necessity of you and me having to act ignorantly and disgracefully, boycotting and picketing some cracker someplace else, trying to beg him for a job. Anytime you have to rely upon your enemy for a job, you're in bad shape. And he is your enemy. Anytime, you wouldn't be in this country if some enemy hadn't kidnapped you and brought you here. On the other hand, some of you think you came here on the Mayflower. So as you can see, brothers and sisters, today, this afternoon, it's not our intention to discuss religion. We're going to forget religion. If we bring up religion, we'll be in an argument. And the best way to keep away from arguments and differences, as I said earlier, put your religion at home, in the closet. Keep it between you and your God. Because if it hasn't done anything more for you than it has, you need to forget it anyway. Whether you are a Christian or a Muslim or a nationalist, we all have the same problem. They don't hang you because you're a Baptist, they hang you because you're black. They don't attack me because I'm a Muslim, they attack me because I'm black. They attack all of us for the same reason. All of us catch hell from the same enemy. We're all in the same bag, in the same boat. We suffer political oppression, economic exploitation, and social degradation. All of them from the same enemy. The government has failed us. You can't deny that. Anytime you live in the 20th century, 1964, and you walking around here singing, "We shall overcome," the government has failed. This is part of what's wrong with you. You do too much singing. Today it's time to stop singing and start swinging. You can't sing up on freedom, but you can swing up on some freedom. Cassius Clay can sing, but singing didn't help him to become the heavyweight champion of the world. Swinging helped him. So this government has failed us. The government itself has failed us. And the white liberals who have been posing as our friends have failed us. And once we see that all these other sources to which we've turned have failed, we stop turning to them and turn to ourselves. We need a self-help program. Do it yourself philosophy. Do it right now philosophy. It's already too late philosophy. This is what you and I need to get with. And the only way we're going to solve our problem is with a self-help program. Before we can get a self-help program started, we have to have a self-help philosophy. Black nationalism is a self-help philosophy. What's so good about it, you can stay right in the church where you are and still take black nationalism as your philosophy. You can stay in any kind of civic organization that you belong to and still take black nationalism as your philosophy. You can be an atheist and still take black nationalism as your philosophy. This is a philosophy that eliminates the necessity for division and argument. Because if you're black, you should be thinking black. And if you're black and you're not thinking black at this late date, well, I'm sorry for you. Once you change your philosophy, you change your thought pattern. Once you change your thought pattern, you change your attitude. Once you change your attitude, it changes your behavior pattern. And then you go on into some action. As long as you got a sit-down philosophy, you'll have a sit-down thought pattern. And as long as you think that old sit-down thought, you'll be in some kind of sit-down action. They'll have you sitting in everywhere. It's not so good to refer to what you're going to do as a sit-in. That right there castrates you. Right there it brings you down. What goes with it? Think of the image of someone sitting. An old woman can sit. An old man can sit. A chump can sit. A coward can sit. Anything can sit. Well, you and I have been sitting long enough, and it's time today for us to start doing some standing and some fighting to back that up. When we look at other parts of this earth upon which we live, we find that black, brown, red, and yellow people in Africa and Asia are getting their independence. They're not getting it by singing, "We shall overcome." No, they're getting it through nationalism. It is nationalism that brought about the independence of the people in Asia. Every nation in Asia gained its independence through the philosophy of nationalism. Every nation on the African continent that has gotten its independence brought it about through the philosophy of nationalism. And it will take black nationalism to bring about the freedom of 22 million Afro-Americans here in this country where we have suffered colonialism for the past 400 years. America is just as much a colonial power as England ever was. America is just as much a colonial power as France ever was. In fact, America is more so a colonial power than they, because she's a hypocritical colonial power behind it. What is what do you call second-class citizenship? Why, that's colonization. Second-class citizenship is nothing but 20th century slavery. How are you going to tell me you're a second-class citizen? They don't have second-class citizenship in any other government on this earth. They just have slaves and people who are free. Well, this country is a hypocrite. They try and make you think they set you free by calling you a second-class citizen. No, you're nothing but a 20th century slave. Just as it took nationalism to remove colonialism from Asia and Africa, it'll take black nationalism today to remove colonialism from the backs and the minds of 22 million Afro-Americans here in this country. And 1964 looks like it might be the year of the ballot or the bullet. Why does it look like it might be the year of the ballot or the bullet? Because Negroes have listened to the trickery and the lies and the false promises of the white man now for too long. They've become disenchanted. They've become disillusioned. They've become dissatisfied. And all of this has built up frustrations in the black community that makes the black community throughout America today more explosive than all of the atomic bombs the Russians can ever invent. Whenever you got a racial powder keg sitting in your lap, you're in more trouble than if you had an atomic powder keg sitting in your lap. When a racial powder keg goes off, it doesn't care who it knocks out the way. Understand this, it's dangerous. And in 1964, this seems to be the year. Because what can the white man use now to fool us? After he put down that march on Washington, and you see all through that now, he tricked you, had you marching down to Washington. Yes, had you marching back and forth between the feet of a dead man named Lincoln and another dead man named George Washington, singing "We Shall Overcome." He made a chump out of you. He made a fool out of you. He made you think you were going somewhere, and you end up going nowhere but between Lincoln and Washington. So today our people are disillusioned. They've become disenchanted. They've become dissatisfied. And in their frustrations, they want action. You'll see this young black man, this new generation, asking for the ballot or the book. That old Uncle Tom action is outdated. The young generation don't want to hear anything about the odds are against us. What do we care about odds? When this country here was first being founded, there were 13 colonies. The whites were colonized. They were fed up with this taxation without representation. So some of them stood up and said, liberty or death. So I went to a white school over here in Mason, Michigan. The white man made the mistake of letting me read his history books. He made the mistake of teaching me that Patrick Henry was a patriot and George Washington wasn't nothing nonviolent about old Pat or George Washington. Liberty or death was what brought about the freedom of whites in this country from the English. They didn't care about the odds. Why, they faced the wrath of the entire British Empire. And in those days, they used to say that the British Empire was so vast and so powerful when the sun would never set on it. This is how big it was. Yet these 13 little scrawny states, tired of taxation without representation, tired of being exploited and oppressed and degraded, told that big British Empire, liberty or death. And here you have 22 million Afro-American black people today catching more hell than Patrick Henry ever saw.
And I'm here to tell you, in case you don't know it, that you got a new generation of black people in this country who don't care anything whatsoever about ours. They don't want to hear you old Uncle Tom handkerchief heads talking about the honor. No. This is a new generation. If they're going to draft these young black men and send them over to Korea or South Vietnam to face 800 million Chinese, if you're not afraid of those odds, you shouldn't be afraid of these odds. Why does this loom to be such an explosive political year? Because this is the year of politics. This is the year when all of the white politicians are going to come into the Negro community. You never see them until election time. You can't blame them until election time. They're going to come in with false promises. And as they make these false promises, they're going to feed our frustrations. And this will only serve to make matters worse. I'm no politician. I'm not even a student of politics. I'm not a Republican, nor a Democrat, nor an American, and got sense enough to know it. I'm one of the 22 million black victims of the Democrats. One of the 22 million black victims of the Republicans, and one of the 22 million black victims of Americanism. And when I speak, I don't speak as a Democrat or a Republican. I speak as a victim of America's so-called democracy. You and I have never seen democracy. All we've seen is hypocrisy. When we open our eyes today and look around America, we see America not through the eyes of someone who has enjoyed the fruits of Americanism. We see America through the eyes of someone who has been the victim of Americanism. We don't see any American dream. We've experienced only the American nightmare. We haven't benefited from America's democracy. We've only suffered from America's hypocrisy. And the generation that's coming up now can see it and are not afraid to say it. If you go to jail, so what? If you're black, you were born in jail. If you're black, you were born in jail. In the North as well as the South. Stop talking about the South. As long as you're south of the Canadian border, you're south. Don't call Governor Wallace a Dixie governor. Romney is a Dixie governor. 22 million black victims of Americanism are waking up, and they're gaining a new political consciousness, becoming politically mature. And as they develop this political maturity, they're able to see the recent trends in these political elections. They see that the whites are so evenly divided that every time they vote, the race is so close, they have to go back and count the votes all over again. And which means that any block, any minority that has a block of votes that stick together is in a strategic position. Either way you go, that's who gets it. You're in a position to determine who'll go to the White House and who'll stay in the doghouse. You're the one who has that power. You can keep Johnson in Washington, D.C., or you can send him back to his Texas cotton patch. You're the one who sent Kennedy to Washington. You're the one who put the present Democratic administration in Washington, D.C. The whites were evenly divided. It was the fact that you threw 80% of your votes behind the Democrats that put the Democrats in the White House. when you see this, you can see that the Negro vote is the key factor. And despite the fact that you are in a position to be the determining factor, what do you get out of it? The Democrats have been in Washington, D.C. only because of the Negro vote. They've been down there 4 years. And all other legislation they wanted to bring up, they brought it up and gotten it out of the way, and now they bring up you. And now they bring up you. You put them first, and they put you last. Because you're a chump. A political chump. In Washington, D.C., in the House of Representatives, there are 257 who are Democrats. Only 177 are Republican. In the Senate, there are 67 Democrats. Only 33 are Republicans. The party that you backed controls 2/3 of the House of Representatives in the Senate, and still they can't keep their promise to you because you're a chump. Anytime you throw your weight behind a political party that controls 2/3 of the government, and that party can't keep the promise that it made to you during election time, and you are dumb enough to walk around continuing to identify yourself with that party, you're not only a chump, but you're a traitor to your race. And what kind of alibi do they come up with? They try and pass the buck to the Dixiecrats. Now, back during the days when you were blind, deaf, and dumb, ignorant, politically immature, naturally you went along with that. But today, as your eyes come open and you develop political maturity, you're able to see and think for yourself. And you can see that a Dixiecrat is nothing but a Democrat in disguise. You look at the structure of the government that controls this country. It's controlled by 16 senatorial committees and 20 congressional committees. Of the 16 senatorial committees that run the government, 10 of them are in the hands of Southern segregationists. Of the 20 congressional committees that run the government, 12 of them are in the hands of Southern segregationists. And they're going to tell you and me that the South lost the war. Are in the hands of a government of segregationists, racists, white supremacists, who belong to the Democratic Party but disguise themselves as Dixiecrats. A Dixiecrat is nothing but a Democrat. Whoever runs the Democrats is also the father of the Dixiecrats, and the father of all of them is sitting in the White House. I say it again. You got a president who's nothing but a Southern segregationist. From the state of Texas. They'll lynch you in Texas as quick as they'll lynch you in Mississippi. Only in Texas, they lynch you with a Texas accent. In Mississippi, they lynch you with a Mississippi accent. And the first thing the cracker does when he comes in power, he takes all the Negro leaders and invites them for a coffee to show that he's all right. And those Uncle Toms can't pass up the coffee. From the coffee table, telling you and me that this man is all right. Because he's from the South. And since he's from the South, he can deal with the South. And look at the logic that they're using. What about Eastland? He's from the South. Make him the president. If Johnson is a good man because he's from Texas, and being from Texas will enable, if Johnson is a good man because he's from Texas, and being from Texas will enable him to deal with the South, Eastland can deal with the South better than Johnson. Oh, I say, you've been misled. You've been had. You've been took. Washington a couple of weeks ago while the senators were filibustering. And I noticed in the back of the Senate a huge map. And on this map, it showed the distribution of Negroes in America. And surprisingly, the same senators that were involved in the filibuster were from the states where there were the most Negroes. Why were they filibustering the civil rights legislation? Because the civil rights legislation is supposed to guarantee voting rights to Negroes in those states. And those senators from those states know that if the Negroes in those states can vote, those senators are down the drain. The representatives of those states go down the drain. And in the Constitution of this country, it has a stipulation wherein whenever the rights, the voting rights of people in a certain district are violated, then the representative who's from that particular district, according to the Constitution, is supposed to be expelled from the Congress. Now, if this particular aspect of the Constitution was enforced, why, you wouldn't have a cracker in Washington, D.C. When you expel the Dixiecrat, you're expelling the Democrat. When you destroy the power of the Dixiecrat, you're destroying the power of the Democratic Party. So how in the world can the Democratic Party in the South actually side with you in sincerity when all of its power is based in the South? These Northern Democrats are in cahoots with the Southern Democrats. They're playing a giant con game, a political con game. You know how it goes. One of them comes to you and make believe he's for you. And he's in cahoots with the other one that's not for you. Why? Because neither one of them is for you. But they got to make you go with one of them or the other. So this is a con game. And this is what they've been doing with you and me all these years. First thing Johnson got off the plane, when he became president, he asked, where's Dickie? You know who Dickie is? Dickie is old Southern cracker Richard Russell. Look here. Yes. Lyndon B. Johnson's best friend is the one who is ahead, who's heading the forces that are filibustering civil rights legislation. You tell me, how in the hell is he going to be Johnson's best friend? Johnson be his friend and your friend too? No, that man is too tricky, especially if his friend is still old Dickie. Whenever the Negroes keep the Democrats in power, they're keeping the Dixiecrats in power. This is true. A vote for a Democrat is nothing but a vote for a Dixiecrat. I know you don't like me saying that, but who come here to say what you like. I'm going to tell you the truth whether you like it or not. Up here in the North, you have the same thing. The Democratic Party don't do it. They don't do it that way. They got a thing that they call gerrymandering. They maneuver you out of power. Even though you can vote, they fix it so you're voting for nobody. Got you going and coming. In the South, they're outright political wolves. In the North, they're political foxes. A fox and a wolf are both canine. Both belong to the dog family. Now, you take your choice. You're going to choose a northern dog or a southern dog. Because either dog you choose, I guarantee you, you'll still be in the doghouse. This is why I say it's the ballot or the bullet. It's liberty or it's death. It's freedom for everybody or freedom for nobody. America today finds herself in a unique situation. Historically, revolutions are bloody. Oh, yes, they are. They have never had a bloodless revolution or a nonviolent revolution. That don't happen even in Hollywood. revolution in which you love your enemy. And you don't have a revolution in which you are begging the system of exploitation to integrate you into it. Revolutions overturn systems. Revolutions destroy systems. A revolution is bloody. But America is in a unique position. She's the only country in history in a position actually to become involved in a bloodless revolution. The Russian Revolution was bloody. Chinese Revolution was bloody. French Revolution was bloody. Cuban Revolution was bloody. And there was nothing more bloody than the American Revolution. But today, this country can become involved in a revolution that won't take bloodshed. All she's got to do is give the black man in this country everything that's doing. Everything. I hope that the white man can see this, because if you don't see it, you're finished. If you don't see it, you're going to become involved in some action in which you don't have a chance. And we don't care anything about your atomic bomb. It's useless, because other countries have atomic bombs. When 2 or 3 different countries have atomic bombs, nobody can use it. So it means that the white man today is without a weapon. If you want some action, you got to come on down to earth. And there's more black people on earth than there are white people on earth. I only got a couple more minutes. The white man can never win another war on the ground. His days of war victory, his days of ground victory are over. Right now, that he's involved in. Tell me where he's winning. Nowhere. Why, some rice farmers, some rice eaters ran him out of Korea. Yes, they ran him out of Korea. Rice eaters with nothing but gym shoes and a rifle and a bowl of rice. Took him and his tanks and his napalm and all that other action he's supposed to have and ran him across the Yalu. Why? Because the day that he can win on the ground is past. Up in French Indochina, those little peasants, rice growers, took on the might of the French army and ran all the Frenchmen. You remember Dien Bien Phu? No. The same thing happened in Algeria, in Africa. They didn't have anything but a rifle. The French had all these highly mechanized instruments of warfare, but they put some guerrilla action on. And a white man can't fight a guerrilla warfare. Guerrilla action takes heart, takes nerve, and he doesn't have that. He's brave when he's got tanks. He's brave when he's got planes. He's brave when he's got bombs. He's brave when he got a whole lot of company along with him. But you take that little man from Africa and Asia, turn him loose in the woods with a blade. That's all he needs. All he needs is a blade. And when the sun comes down, goes down, and it's dark, it's even Steven. It's the ballot or the bullet. Today our people can see that we're faced with a government conspiracy. This government has failed us. The senators who are filibustering concerning your and my rights, that's the government. Don't say it's Southern senators. This is the government. This is a government filibuster. It's not a segregationist filibuster. It's a government filibuster. Any kind of activity that takes place on the floor of the Congress or the Senate, that's the government. Any kind of dilly-dallying, that's the government. Any kind of pussyfooting, that's the government. Any kind kind of act that's designed to delay or deprive you and me right now of getting full rights. That's the government that's responsible. And anytime you find the government involved in a conspiracy to violate the citizenship or the civil rights of a people, then you are wasting your time going to that government expecting redress. Instead, you have to take that government to the world court and accuse it of genocide and all of the other crimes that it is guilty of today. So those of us whose political and economic and social philosophy is black nationalism have become involved in the civil rights struggle. We have injected ourselves into the civil rights struggle, and we intend to expand it from the level of civil rights to the level of human rights. As long as you fight it on the level of civil rights, you're under Uncle Sam's jurisdiction. You're going to his court expecting him to correct the problem. He created the problem. He's the criminal. You don't take your case to the criminal, you take your criminal to court. When the government of South Africa began to trample upon the human rights of the people of South Africa, they were taken to the UN. When the government of Portugal began to trample upon the rights of our brothers and sisters in Angola, it was taken before the UN. Why, even the white man took the Hungarian question to the UN, and just this week, Chief Justice Goldberg was crying over 3 million Jews in Russia about their human rights, charging Russia with violating the UN Charter because of its mistreatment of the human rights of Jews in Russia. Now you tell me, how can the plight of everybody on this earth reach the halls of the United Nations and you have 22 million Afro-Americans whose churches are being bombed, whose little girls are being murdered, whose leaders are being shot down in broad daylight? Now you tell me why the leaders of this struggle have never taken it before the United Nations. So our next move is to take the entire civil rights struggle problem into the United Nations. And let the world see that Uncle Sam is guilty of violating the human rights of 22 million Afro and still has the audacity or the nerve to stand up and represent himself as the leader of the free world. Not only is he a crook, he's a hypocrite. Here he is standing up in front of other people, Uncle Sam, with the blood of your and my mothers and fathers on his hands, with the blood dripping down his jaws like a bloody-jawed wolf, and still got the nerve to point his finger at other countries. You can't even get civil rights legislation. And this man has got the nerve to stand up and talk about South Africa, or talk about Nazi Germany, or talk about Portugal. No more days like those. So I say in my conclusion, the only way we're going to solve it, we got to unite in unity and harmony. And black nationalism is the key. How are we going to overcome the tendency to be at each other's throats that always exists in our neighborhood? And the reason this tendency exists, the strategy of the white man has always been divide and conquer. He keeps us divided in order to conquer us. He tells you, I'm for separation and you for integration, and keep us fighting with each other. No, I'm not for separation and you're not for integration. What you and I are for is freedom. Only you think that integration will get you freedom. I think separation will get me freedom. We both got the same objective. We just got different ways of getting at it. So I studied this man, Billy Graham, who preaches white nationalism. That's what he preaches. I say say that's what he preaches. The whole church structure in this country is white nationalism. You go inside a white church, that's what they're preaching, white nationalism. They got Jesus white, Mary white, God white, everybody white. That's white nationalism. The way he circumvents the jealousy and envy that he ordinarily would incur among the heads of the church. Whenever you go into an area where the church already is, you're going to run into trouble. Because they got that thing, what you call it, syndicated. So they got a syndicate just like the racketeers have. I'm going to say what's on my mind because the preachers already proved to you that they got a syndicate. And when you're out in the rackets, whenever you get in another man's territory, you know, they gang up on you. And that's the same way with you. You run into the same thing. So how Billy Graham gets around that, instead of going into somebody else's territory like he's going to start a new church, he doesn't try and start a church. He just goes in preaching Christ. And he says, everybody who believes in him, you go wherever you find him. So this helps all the churches, and so since it helps all the churches, they don't fight him. Well, we're going to do the same thing, only our gospel is black nationalism. His gospel is white nationalism, our gospel is black nationalism. And the gospel of black nationalism, as I told you, means you should control the politics of your community, the economy of your community, and all of the society in which you live should be under your control. And once you feel that this philosophy will solve your problem, go join any church where that's preached. Don't join a church where white nationalism is preached. Now you can go to a Negro church and be exposed to white nationalism. But when you walk in a Negro church and a white Mary and some white angels, that Negro church is preaching white nationalism. When you go to a church and you see the pastor of that church with a philosophy and a program that's designed to bring black people together and elevate black people, join that church. Join that church. If you see where the NAACP is preaching and practicing that which is designed to make black nationalism materialize, join NAACP. Join any kind of organization, civic, religious, fraternal, political, or otherwise, that's based on lifting the black man up and making him master of his own community. It'll be the ballot, or it'll be the bullet. It'll be liberty, or it'll be death. And if you're not ready to pay that price, don't use the word freedom in your vocabulary. One more thing. I was on a program in Illinois recently with Senator Paul Douglas, a so-called liberal, so-called Democrat, so-called white man. At which time he told me that our African brothers were not interested in us in Africa. He says the Africans aren't interested in the American Negro. I knew he was lying. But during the next 2 or 3 weeks, it's my intention and plan to make a tour of our African homeland. And I hope that when I come back, I'll be able to come back and let you know how our African brothers and sisters feel toward us. And I know before I go there that they love us. We're one. We're the same. The same man who has colonized them all these years colonized you and me too. All these years. And all we have to do now is wake up and work in unity and harmony, and the battle will be over. I want to thank the Freedom Now Party and the Goal. I want to thank Milton and Richard Henry for inviting me here this afternoon, and also Reverend Clegg. And I want them to know that anything that I can ever do at any time to work with anybody in any kind of program that is sincerely designed to eliminate the political, the economic, and the social evils that confront all of our people in Detroit and elsewhere, all they got to do is give me a telephone call and I'll be on the next jet right on into the city.
All right, everybody. All right. So tell me, what did you think? What did you think? Give Malcolm, Malcolm's watching from the grave because we had to finish his work. So tell me what you guys thought of the speech. How did it affect you? Did it impact you? I don't know how many of you have actually had a chance to listen to the speech in its entirety, but I thought that we really need to do school church today, so that we can figure out who the heck we are and really formalize a discussion that centers our minds on what it is we have to do in the environment that we're in. Now, one thing I want to tell you guys is that I was actually going to try to cover 2 speeches tonight, but I'm not going to do that because I feel that each one deserves its own individual attention. The Ballot of the Bullet is such a powerful speech, and I was just going through and I was making all these notes on just, you know, these gems that were sort of picked up in the speech, and I just said, you know, oh my gosh, I can't. There's no way I could talk about both of these speeches in the same night because there's so much. It's so heavy. And what I love about it, here's what I love about listening to Malcolm X. It's similar to how I feel when I listen to Dr. Claude Anderson. I love listening to people who are not feeding Black people bullshit. I love listening to people who are giving Black people solutions, encouraging us to be courageous, encouraging us to be confident, encouraging us to demand and to fight for the things that we truly deserve. I like that. I like people that raise the bar for our people in terms of challenging all of us to really think carefully about this thing that we're in. You know, really think carefully about it, because if you don't, what's going to happen is you're going to end up super frustrated. I remember when I was in graduate school, and I remember feeling, you know, angry as a Black man. You know, like James Baldwin used to say that, you know, to be Black and conscious is to be just in a perpetual state of rage. He said it more eloquently than me. He's an eloquent man, but you know what I'm talking about. Just pissed off all the time. And I remember I talked to, you know, I told you I'm lucky I'm marrying a therapist, because I had to talk about that. I said, you know, I think I needed a lot of therapy just from being a Black man, because I was so mad all the time. And I felt like I had to use, you know, Scotch tape and Elmer's glue to put together and build a life and build a career and build a pathway to success that went outside of the racism that I was dealing with. And I said, my God, you know, here I am. I have a PhD in finance. I was the only Black man on the planet to get a PhD in finance when I got my PhD. That year that I got it, that particular year, there was no other Black person on the planet that got a PhD in finance. So, you know, all these universities had these diversity statements, and we want to have minority Black professors or whatever. And it was bullshit. It was all bullshit. And I remember getting hired at Syracuse University and being so mad. I said, how am I supposed to succeed in this environment? You don't value me. You don't value the things I care about. When I tell you that I want to do research on Black people, you tell me that that's not important enough, right? You brought me in before the year before I got there. I remember there were 90 professors in the entire business school and no Black people at all. So I had no mentors, you know. So they're like, "Oh, we want you to go publish in these white journals that white guys run." And it was an old boys club. You had to have friends. You had to have somebody that got you in. I was like, I don't know these people. I don't understand them. They don't understand me. You know, I didn't know what to do. I remember just being like angry and thinking, what am I supposed to do with this? You know, so the reason I bring that up is because, you know, it's easy to be confused when you're Black. It's real easy to be confused. I remember being in my 20s and hearing even successful Black people tell me the pathway to success. And a lot of the pathway to so-called success came off to me like a whole bunch of step and fetch it Uncle Tommen that I was like, this is stupid. I don't want to do this. You mean I have to go around and pretend to be ignorant and kiss up to these terrible people in order for me to even have a job? It was very emasculating, you know, or when you're listening to so-called Black leaders and they're all these sort of preachers who are telling you that you're too angry. You know, I don't know if anybody else has ever been the angry Black man or the angry Black woman and had Black people tell you that you shouldn't be mad and that you should, you know, sort of embrace this peace and love kind of thing. And that's how we got to where we are, right? When they're teaching you that false history, where they're teaching you that the way we got to where we are as Black people is that everybody in the 1960s was going to church and locking arms and singing "We Shall Overcome" and letting white people beat the shit out of them so you could get a chance to go sit in a Woolworths. You know what I'm talking about? You know those stories. And they would tell you that, like some white teachers tell, well, this is our Dr. King was a man of peace, a man of love. And you look at America, and America's not a country of peace. America's not a country of love. America's a country of violence. America's a country that has more guns than people. You know, America's a country that has achieved almost everything by fighting somebody. So you mean to tell me that we're the only ones sitting around literally letting people beat us into a coma and hoping that somebody puts it on TV so that somebody will feel sorry for us enough that they'll give us some civil rights that they can easily take away with another vote? I didn't get that. It was very confusing for me. And I did not understand how a watered down, weak, emasculated Black man could ever become a powerful human being and self-determined. And so I'm not saying that that's what Dr. King was, but I'm saying that there's a whole other side of Black history where you've got the Malcolm X's, you've got the Marcus Garveys that they don't teach about. You've got the Dr. Claude Andersons that they don't teach about. And I love having Dr. Claude Anderson come in, and we do that on Powernomics Thursdays. I love when he comes in because he's the guy that says, I was there for all of it. Dr. Claude Anderson is maybe slightly younger than Malcolm X or Martin Luther King would be if they were still alive. And he said, I was there for all of it. And I was not there for none of that, you know, hold hands, march in peace. We shall overcome. Let white people beat you upside the head so you can get an opportunity to go give them all your money. He wasn't down for that. Now, I'm not saying that the civil rights struggle was not valuable. I'm not saying it didn't add value. I'm saying that your education is horrifically incomplete. What you've been trained on, what you've been taught is wrong. What you've been taught is not the whole story. You've been taught in a way where you are like a domesticated house cat that's had his claws cut off, and you've been neutered intellectually to the point where you don't know which way is up. And so I think it's important for us, at the very least right now today, we have to make sure that when it comes to the education of ourselves, each other, and our children, that we control all of that. Right. So let's go back to what Malcolm talked about. He talked about a philosophy of Black nationalism. If you want to put a label on it, let's put a label on it. Black nationalism. You know, and I'm hesitant to put a label on it because, you know, every title has a stigma attached, right? Some people think that being a Black nationalist or believing that Black people can do for self, that's either a foolhardy strategy, or that you're too radical to fit in, or that you're too Black to make people comfortable. Even Black people are uncomfortable around you. Well, I would say that we need to reconsider that. We need to sort of consider what that really means and and I'm going to tell you what I was hearing from Malcolm as he spoke on Black nationalism. I was hearing, and remember at the beginning of this conversation, guys, the key word I was focusing on before we first started was what? Freedom. Freedom. That I don't care who you are, where you come from, or what you believe in, what your religion is, what your gender is, what your sexuality is. We can all agree that the word freedom will resonate with all of us. That freedom is one thing we can rally around. That's one idea that we can all agree upon as our sole pursuit as Black people. Freedom, freedom, freedom. So give me something in the chat to type the word freedom in the chat to let me know that we can start right there on that foundation, right? So even if you don't agree with my politics, I'm not asking you to agree with my politics. I'm not asking you to match my religion or my gender or my sexuality. Some of y'all may be gay or straight. Some of y'all may be, you know, feminists. Some of you may be, you know, Catholic, Jewish, you know, Muslim, Christian. All that doesn't matter. Let's start with the word freedom. And then the second concept that Malcolm leaned into, that Dr. Claude Anderson talks about on a regular basis, every time he comes in here, is he says that the reason you want to avoid getting caught up in, I'm a Democrat, you're a Republican, I'm gay, you're straight, I'm a woman, you're a man. The reason you don't want to get caught up in that is because those are the divide and conquer tactics that keep you from coming together and unifying as Black people. Malcolm said this. Dr. Claude Anderson says this every week. That's why when we start our conversation, what's the hashtag that I asked you guys to put in there? B1, hashtag B1. Type hashtag B1 in the chat if you know what I'm talking about. Hashtag B1, being the number one, means two things. It means, one, that you're Black first. So again, you're gay or straight, doesn't matter, you're Black first. You're Christian, Muslim, doesn't matter, you're Black first. You're rich or poor, doesn't matter, you're Black first. Educated, uneducated, no, you're Black first. You're a rapper, I'm a scholar, doesn't matter, we're Black first. Let's start right there. The other meaning behind B1 is that in order for us to succeed, we have to go to the third concept that Malcolm discussed in his speech, which is unity. Unity. To succeed, we must be one. We must become one. We must find a way to overlook our differences and find something that we have in common. Find some things that we can agree upon, like freedom, which is a basic idea that resonates with everyone. Even animals understand freedom. If you ask an animal, or if you look at an animal's behavior, do you think animals are happier when they're in a cage or when they're free? Well, go get an animal that's been in a cage his whole life and then let him go out and then try to go put him back in that cage again. Freedom is not something that you have to be trained to want. It's not something that's specific to a certain situation. Freedom as a general idea is something that should belong to any intelligent person who has the ability or desire to make their own decisions, right? Not everybody's in that case. Some people may not want to be free. Some people may want somebody to tell them what to do. So it requires a certain level of intellectual maturity to even be able to value and appreciate freedom, right? And then also freedom is just a universal idea. Right. So at the end of the day, when you talk about what do Black people want, or when the white allies, your new white allies, you got a lot of new friends now. And I don't doubt for a second that some of these people are not sincere. I believe they're really sincere. So you got a lot of new allies. And when they say, well, what do you want, Black people? You can say freedom. Well, let's talk about freedom in more specific terms as it relates to the concepts that Malcolm laid out with Black nationalism. I believe that Black nationalism, and I believe it should be global. I think you have allies in Africa. I did that trip to Ghana. I made it very public because I wanted you all to see my growth and development as I'm learning about all the allies we have in Africa. And I'm embarrassed by how poorly educated I was on all the great countries they have in Africa. I'm going down the list and I'm like, whoa, wait, there's 50 million people in this country? I didn't know that there were that many people. You're talking about over 1.2 billion allies, 1.3 billion over in Africa that you completely ignore? Are you kidding me, Black people? Are you serious? Are you serious? I mean, when I was there, they love you. Not everybody, right? Because people differ, right? But they love you. They genuinely love you. Some of y'all right now are watching from Africa. If you're from a part of Africa or wherever, lay out your country. Tell me what country you're in right now, just so they know how much you love them. There are Black people in Africa that love you. There are Black people in London that love you. I go to London on a regular basis. Black London loves the shit out of you. But unfortunately, African Americans, because you've been kept in a cage and because you've been lied to for so long, you don't know how many Black people there are around the world who love you. So I think that Black nationalism, or whatever you want to call it, I think that's a philosophy that can work for us in the sense that it's pursuing that key idea of freedom, where we all choose to be one by using a be one philosophy. We're Black first, which allows us to unify around the thing we agree on, which is freedom, right? And having the unity to do that, right? And then also understanding that freedom comes down to, again, another Black nationalist concept, which is control and power. So what do I mean by that? Well, in the Black Business School, when I thought about what I wanted the Black Business School to do, I spent a lot of time thinking about what freedom meant. What does freedom really mean for Black people? When you talk about fighting against systematic racism, what does that mean? It could mean dismantling the existing system. It can mean changing the system from the inside. It can mean assimilating into the system, or it can mean deviating and leaving the system and forming alternative systems, right? So you got all those options, right? You could dismantle, you could go in, do straight revolution, destroy the system. You could go in and you could try to change the system from the inside. You could go in and you could just say, look, I'm going to assimilate so that the system likes me enough to elevate me to the top. Or you could just walk away like the Mormons did and just say, I'm going to go create my own system, right? So when you're thinking about systematic racism and you're talking about this quest for freedom, as we as Black people are trying to figure out what it means to have freedom and control over our outcomes, one of the things I realize is that a skill that I believe that would benefit us as Black people tremendously is making sure our children understand what it takes to build a system. What does it mean to develop the code of conduct necessary to maintain a system, the processes and procedures? If you look up the word, for example, one example of a system is a corporation. Apple Computer is a big system, a big corporation that makes billions of dollars a year. Well, if you look up the definition of a corporation, it pretty much says that it's a nexus of relationships. It's an agreement amongst a group of people to operate based on a certain set of codes and principles that they all must follow. If you work for Apple, then you have to follow the Apple rules and procedures manual. Or if you work in the store, you got to wear the little Apple logo on your shirt, right? Or at Apple, this is how we approach the customer. At Apple, this is how we make our computers. At Apple, this is how we deal with each other in the workspace, right? So for Black people, when you're talking about developing your quest or following through on your quest for freedom and power and control, and you're talking about deviating from systems or getting away from systems that oppress you, then you have to understand what it means to be on code. You got to figure out what it means to be on code. Being on code has multiple levels. You know, being on code means, first of all, being on code with yourself. You know, you have to figure out what am I, what do I represent? What am I trying to do? Who am I trying to be? And how do I every day make sure that I'm living up to the standards of that person, right? Because if you're not on code with yourself, you can't be on code with the world. I remember when there was a time where I used to have big goals that were way up here, but my work ethic was like here. Right now, I've always been a hard worker, so I was doing better than most people, but I wasn't the man that I wanted to be. And I realized, I said, you know, Boyce, you're a hypocrite. I had to look in the mirror and realize, I said, you know, you're a hypocrite because you talk about operating at this level, but you really operate at that level. So I wasn't on code with myself. When it came to my day-to-day philosophy in terms of how I approached everything, I wasn't always able to meet the standard. I wasn't the man that I really wanted to be. So when you talk about being on code, it starts with being on code with yourself. A father must be on code with whatever image he has of what a good father is supposed to be, right? A mother has to be on code in terms of what mothers are supposed to do. A wife, a husband, you know, whatever, a sibling, a child. Everybody has a code that you have to kind of consider and align yourself with. Then there's the family code, right? There's a code of conduct within family. For example, when I was a kid, my father used to say, only a dirtbag will steal from his own family. So that let me know, okay, to be on code with family, I don't steal from family. To be on code with family means I come through for family. To be on code with family means that I'm going to be an asset to those I love and not a liability, right? A lot of Black folks ain't on code. You know, I met a brother not too long ago who was in his 50s and was living with his mama. And it wasn't like his mama was living with him. He was living with her. And I'm sitting there thinking, why are you over 50 years old and your mama's paying your bills? Are you disabled, Negro? Are you handicapped? Like, is something wrong with you? Like, is something wrong with you physically and mentally to the point where you can't do what a man's supposed to do? Like, that's your mama. You're supposed to be taking care of her. Why is she taking care of you? That's not on code, in my opinion, right? So on code with yourself, on code with family, and that leads to being on code with the community and figuring out what that means. Right? So we're talking about a code, right? We're here, we talk about things like B1 and freedom and things like that. So there's a code in terms of how you go about sort of engaging with the world, because if you're on code, you're like a football team that's well organized and structured, or a military where everybody's on code. Everybody follows the orders and the procedures and the protocol, wears the same uniform. They know exactly what the battle plan is, how to execute the battle plan. That's a team, that's a group. That's an army that's able to win battles. But imagine an army going to war and everybody's doing their own damn thing. Everybody's running around acting a fool. Some people showing up with different outfits on, so you don't even know who's on your side. You might stab somebody who's actually on your side because you're not wearing the same uniform, right? No, you know, some people go left, some people go right. There's no understanding, there's no communication, no connection in terms of understanding how to take on the enemy. Well, a group like that is going to be destroyed. They're going to be killed. You're going to be slaughtered on the battlefield, right? So being on code is really, really important. And so one of the things that we do in these conversations is I'm humbly suggesting, I'm not here to tell anybody what to do. I'm humbly suggesting ways that we can be on code, not so much in a way where you got to come to my house and we got to be a military right then and there. I'm talking about just being on code with your damn kids, man. I'm talking about understanding, like coming to an understanding where we can start with that principle of freedom that we all agree upon. We can start with another principle we agree upon. We can build building blocks. We start with freedom. We agree on that. Next building block, we agree that we're Black first. We're B1, hashtag B1 in the chat, right? Then we go to another code that I've laid out for you guys that I'm hoping that you guys will consider. You've heard me mention it before. It's what we call the Black Core of Three. The Black Core of Three means that Black people should educate our own children, create our own jobs, and support Black businesses, right? This goes back to Malcolm's Black nationalist philosophy of control. You control your shit. When it comes to what happens in your neighborhood, you control that. When it comes to what happens in your family, you damn sure better control that. When it comes to what happens in your life, you control that, right? He talks extensively about controlling the politics of your community. You know, and not spending so much time trying to make friends that you forget about the importance of protecting what you have. I think about, a little kid, that's in middle school, and he's trying to make friends, and he's worried that other kids won't like him. So he goes around and he's giving his lunch money away to other kids, or his mama makes him a good sandwich, and he wants somebody to be his friend, so he gives him his sandwich, and then he goes hungry. That's kind of what Black people do. We give away power and control. We give away resources. We give away so much of who we are just so we can make friends, just so we can get caught up in the symbolism, right? And right now you're getting an overdose of symbolism from the rest of the world that is trying to get on board with some idea of what it means for Black lives to matter. And this is where, in my opinion, in 2020, we're going to jump back and forth between 1964 and 2020. In 2020, this is where you show them that you have self-esteem. This is where you show them that you're going to drive a hard bargain. This is where you say to them, look, I know you want to be my friend, and I really appreciate it, but we need to talk about that $14.7 trillion in reparations. And we need to have a serious conversation about that. How are you going to vote when they bring up the reparations package? Are you going to support that? Because if you don't support that, then you can't be my friend. I'm holding my friendship for ransom until you pay up. If you don't pay up, then everything else that you've given me is a bunch of bullshit. Like I really appreciate the fact that you spray painted Black Lives Matter on the biggest street in town. God bless you for that. That's really not, that's going to be a lot for you to clean up, because I already knew Black Lives Matter. I didn't really need you to tell me that. I didn't need you to validate that, because I kind of already knew that. But the fact that you did it, I think that's really cool. But you're going to enjoy that more than me, because painting Black Lives Matter on that street allows you to feel less guilty for the horrible shit that you've done to us over the last 400 years. It also allows you to somehow feel that I'm stupid enough that I'm going to let you get away with a $14.7 trillion debt. You owe us $14.7 trillion. You think I'm going to forget about that because you painted Black Lives Matter on the street. I appreciate you painting Black Lives Matter on the street, but that issue has nothing to do with the other. The other is that you owe us some money and you better pay up. And if you don't pay up, we're going to have a problem. I won't be your friend, right? And so I think that this is an opportunity for you to let them know what you want and what the Black agenda looks like to you. So going back, let's keep going, but we're going to keep leaning on this word freedom. And I love the fact that Malcolm kept saying that word. And so freedom, what else does that mean? Well, it also means this. I read somewhere that corporations have given, I don't know how many hundreds of millions, or maybe it's billions of dollars to Black initiatives, right? Because of the George Floyd situation, many corporations have all made these announcements, and you've seen them. Bank of America is going to give X billions of dollars or $1 billion fund or whatever for Black people. I guess they're going to call it the Black People Fund. I don't know what that means. PayPal is going to, allocate, I forgot how many hundreds of millions of dollars. All these major corporations are going to, lay all this money out because they're all suddenly feeling guilty because they all watched George Floyd die. I think that's fine, but I think you want to sort of understand what that means. And what that really means to me is that you need to know the details of what that means, right? So I'll give an example. If you tell me, look, we're going to put an extra $300 million into public schools in Black neighborhoods, that doesn't mean a whole lot to me, because I don't believe that white people should be educating Black children anyway. Right? No disrespect to those who believe in the public schools or believe that white lady from the suburbs can do a better job than a loving Black teacher can. I feel sorry for you if you feel that way. But I don't agree with that. So to me, if you're going to give $300 million and you truly want to support the Black community and what we're trying to do, then what you do is you find some Black people that are doing work with Black people, and you give them the money with no strings attached. You give them the 300 million or whatever, and you say, here, Freedom Home Academy International, you're already educating Black children at a very high level. We just want to give you the resources to accelerate that progress. So we're not going to tell you what to do with that money. We're going to give you complete freedom, complete control over how those resources are used. That's how you allocate the resources. But when people say, I'm going to give you $10 million because I'm going to create a $10 million program for you, that's a bunch of BS. That's somebody pretending to give you something, but at the end of the day, they're maintaining control over how those resources are used. There's a documentary on YouTube you should watch. I've mentioned it before. I'll mention it again. It's called Poverty, Inc. Poverty, Inc. is an example of what you don't want them to do to you as a community. Poverty, Inc. explains how white people that are your allies who claim to be wanting to do good for Black people are destroying African countries by creating these foundations, and they're using the images of starving Black children around the world to go get white people to feel guilty and give them billions of dollars every year. And instead of doing what they should do, which is to go in those communities and allow those people to have those resources to invest and build industry so they can become independent and strong, they don't do that. They'll take that money, go give that money to one of their white friends and say, we're going to pay you $100 million to create a program where you're going to go and give shoes away in Ethiopia, right? So the money isn't going to the Black people because they don't respect you enough. They don't think that you're mature enough to know what to do with the resources. So instead, a white person will give that money to another white person to go build a product that they're going to go hand out to Black people. And then what happens in the country is two things. One, the people become addicted to the handouts. People become addicted to getting free stuff. They become addicted to believing the only way to get a resource is to go put your hand out and beg a white man to take care of you. And then two, the strong Black people in that community, meaning the alpha males or the intelligent Black women who actually want to build businesses, can't build shit because everybody's getting free stuff from Europe. Right? They can't sell a product because everybody's like, well, if we're a charity case. We're a pathetic little country. If you really want to help the people, you should give stuff away for free like the white man does. Well, you can't build a business on free. You go through that in your own community. How many of you have seen a Black business get started and have Black people come up and say, well, if you're selling your books, but if you really care about Black people, you give it away for free, right? Who taught you that your education, your training, or whatever it is that you want is supposed to be free? Who taught you that it's not an investment that you should be making just like you make every other investment? Who taught you that you can't be like the Indians and the Asians and the other communities who will invest their asses off to get their children a good education? The Nigerians don't have that problem. When you have those little testing centers, those testing centers that put your kid ahead of the curve. I have a friend that works in one of those little special testing centers where they'll help your child get ready for the ACT and the SAT, and the kids come out and they get perfect scores and they go to Harvard. He said, I don't understand. He said, Asian parents will break down the damn door and spend their last dollar to send their child to the program. He said, the Nigerian families will damn near want to come and tackle your ass to get their kid in the program. He said, the Indian parents clamor. They're waiting on the waiting list to get in. He said, the African-American parents are like, well, it should be free. I can't afford to give my child an education, but your child is wearing a damn pair of $200 Jordans. Seriously, you went to the Beyonce concerts and you went to see the Black Panther and gave Disney $1.7 billion, but you can't afford to educate your own child? Really? Well, part of that's not your fault. Part of that is because you have been hoodwinked, bamboozled, run amok, led astray, played in the same way they play the African countries with Poverty, Inc. So the strongest people in Africa are the ones who are saying to those white do-gooder organizations, they're saying, get the fuck out. They're like, get out of here. No, we don't want your charity because we are not a charity case. We are the original man. We are Africa. We are strong. We're stronger than you. And that's why you fear us. And that's why you keep us disabled. But we're only going to get strong if you get out of here with that nonsense where you're treating us like we're disabled. Black people are not disabled. Black people are not handicapped. In order for you to even identify even one iota with anything that Malcolm X just said, in order for you to identify with anything that great Black man just said about Black nationalism and doing for self, you must have a commitment to self-empowerment. You must have a commitment to strength. You must have some commitment to understanding the basic idea that there must be a sacrifice in order for you to gain. That's all investment is. Investment is where I teach investing all the time. All investment is making a sacrifice today so you can have more tomorrow. The more you sacrifice, the more you gain. You knew that since you were a kid. You knew that when you played a sport, that the harder you practice, the more games you were going to win. And if you weren't winning enough games, you needed to go back and practice harder. Well, part of the reason that we don't have a harvest is because we're not trained to plant the seed. We're not trained early to make tremendous sacrifices to have tremendous gains down the line. Everything's about instant gratification, instant gratification, instant gratification, because somebody convinced a big segment of our community that being black is the same as being disabled, that you are no different from the retarded kid in the back of the room, that hardworking, big, strong black men, intelligent black men should sit around and whine and cry about how hard it is to be black and hope that some white person feels sorry for them enough to give them some charity. That is about as pathetic as you can get, and you can't build a community off of that. You can't build a community off of weak, pathetic, little wimpy ass black men. You just can't. It's not possible. So that's why Malcolm uses examples. Now, Malcolm's a certain kind of leader. Malcolm used examples of, like the American Revolution. He talked about Patrick Henry saying, give me liberty or give me death, right? So Malcolm was a guy, Malcolm was not digestible for everybody, right? Malcolm's approach is basically saying, do you want this or do you not want this? He said the price of freedom is death. And I agree with that. But the lucky thing about being American, in my opinion, the lucky thing that you have about being in this country is that you don't actually have to die in order to obtain your freedom. I don't think death is a requirement for you to move forward and to build the things that you want to build. I think that you're lucky, you're extremely blessed that you live in a place where there's enough wiggle room for you to get together and do certain things. I've never met a white man who ever stopped me from reading a book. I've never run into a white man who ever told me I can't, form an LLC and start a business. I've never met a white man who told me that I can't teach my own children, right? So you're actually kind of lucky in that regard. But at the end of the day, if you don't understand the nature of sacrifice and have the willingness to sacrifice, and the willingness to sacrifice in a patient framework that will allow you to harvest something later on down the line, then you should probably just get the fuck out of this podcast right now. You should probably leave. You need to go because I don't know where you're going to fit in any of this. You can't because you can't win if you're not ready to fight for something. So let me point out a couple of things Malcolm mentioned in the Ballot of the Bullet speech that I want you to kind of walk away with as well. Remember, the key words today are freedom, being black first, owning and controlling. So one key point, this is something I think Malcolm would agree with. Actually, he talked about this very early in the speech, and I believe that this is something you can take to your children, and this is something that will change their lives. We need one thing in our community for sure. We need a generation of black people that are obsessively committed to the ownership and control of resources. We need a generation in our community that is as obsessed with the ownership of land as we are with knowing how to dribble a basketball and throw a football. We need a generation of black people that are as obsessed with owning stock as we are with knowing how to memorize Cardi B lyrics. We need a generation of black people who are as obsessed with starting businesses as we are with learning the latest dance that our favorite rapper is doing. We need that because that is how you own and control things. That is how you prevent the George Floyd type tragedies. Because I'm gonna tell you like this, George Floyd, that situation doesn't happen if a cop is in a community where you've got a bunch of homeowners who have lawyers on deck, who stick with each other, who are on code, right? George Floyd was pretty much killed mainly because he was alone by himself. You can hunt when someone's isolated and by themselves. That's why they keep you isolated, right? But if George Floyd was with, let's say he was a member of Kappa Alpha Psi, and he was with a bunch of other Kappa men, strong Kappa men who own businesses and own houses and property in the community, I don't think that cop could have got away with sitting on his neck for 7 minutes and murdering him in cold blood in front of everybody else. So one of the things we must understand is that there are ways to protect yourself that are available, and we have to be honest about sort of considering what those solutions are, as opposed to thinking that the only way we can be safe is if white people decide to not harm us. You're not a victim. So one thing he mentioned in the beginning that I really liked was he talked about, and it's fascinating that these same problems existed in 1965 that exist in the year 2020. He talked about the history of black pastors leading black people into political issues. You have some pastors who are, I think are righteous in their quest for leadership of the community. And then you got some pastors that are just bootleg liars and white supremacists that are leveraging their influence in the Black community as a personal pathway for personal wealth and power. Right. Also, I like the fact that he mentioned that his religion was his personal business. That goes back to what Dr. Anderson talks about. He says it all the time, that all these other issues are what they call horizontal issues. These horizontal issues have to be put to the side because your Blackness must be first. Why? Well, because they're not going to, if the police kill you, they're killing you because you're Black. They're not going to kill you because you're a Christian. They're not going to kill you because you're gay or straight or because you're male or female most of the time. It depends, maybe not. But at the end of the day, what matters most is the fact that you're Black. It's your Blackness that creates a lot of unique experiences that we can rally around in terms of what it means to come together and build the community that we want, right? So if you think about this, this also goes back to the Jewish community. Believe it or not, the Jewish community is not always in lockstep. They've had a lot of division all throughout the years. You have the high-class Jews, low-class Jews. You got the Eastern European Jews and maybe the Jews from other parts of Europe. You had the liberal Jews. You have the conservative Jews. You got all kinds of people in the Jewish community. But one thing that they learned during World War II is that Hitler wanted to kill all of them. So because Hitler had an agenda to take out all the Jews, then that's when all the Jews said, okay, we got to get past our horizontal issues and focus on the fact that we need to protect our community. So for Black people, I think that's important for us to understand that and know what that means. Also, he mentioned political maturity, controlling the politics of your community, not letting your vote go for granted. Malcolm said something. I've said some pretty strong things. I think that what he said was stronger than anything I've ever said, where he basically said that if you keep a political party in power, and they control, at that time, the Democrats control 2/3 of the government. He said, if you put your weight behind a political party that controls 2/3 of the government, and they can't even keep their promise to you, you are not only a chump, but you are a traitor to your race. I have never said you're a traitor to your race, but I will say that you could be called a little bit of a chump. And at the very least, I don't care who you vote for. I don't care if you vote at all. You can do what you want. I told you, I believe in freedom. Freedom means you do what works best for you and your family. But at the end of the day, if you give somebody your vote, then they should be giving you something back. Why in the hell would you go into a store and give them all your money and they don't even give you the damn merchandise? Would you go to work every day for a boss that said, here, I want you to come to work 80 hours a week, but I'm not going to send you a paycheck? Would you do that? Give me a yes or no. No, you wouldn't do that. You would do that. And then I'll hear people, they'll say things like, they'll say, well, Doc, I'll say, look, the Democrats, I don't think the Democrats really done anything for Black people that I can think of. And they'll say, well, Doc, what are the Republicans doing? And I'm like, yeah, but did you vote for the Republicans? Did you vote for the Republicans? If the Republicans received 80% of the Black vote, then shit, I'd be on their ass too. I definitely would be on the ass. If you were voting Republican and the Republicans didn't deliver for you, then I would say, yeah, you need to go talk to the Republican Party because they're screwing you. But if you didn't give them your vote, then why do you think they're going to do as much for you as somebody you voted for? That means you're politically stupid. Politicians don't do stuff for people that don't support them. They do stuff for their constituents. You are a constituent of the people that you vote for. You're not a constituent of the people you did not support. So for you to think that the Republicans are supposed to do as much for you as the Democrats, that's like a guy going to work and saying, hey, boss, I worked 80 hours last week. Can I get my paycheck? And the boss saying, well, why don't you go down to McDonald's? They should give you, ask them for some money, right? Why are you asking me for money? Go down there and ask them for money. And you don't even work for McDonald's. You work at Taco Bell. If you gave 80 hours of work at Taco Bell, then Taco Bell owes you money. McDonald's doesn't owe you shit. So it would be stupid for somebody to say, yeah, well, McDonald's didn't give you nothing, or Taco Bell didn't give you nothing, but look at what McDonald's gave you. They didn't give you nothing either. You're comparing apples to oranges. In fact, you're not even comparing apples to oranges. You're comparing apples to dog shit. Like, seriously, apples are not dog shit. So my point is this. Look, I'm not telling you who to vote for. I'm telling you that whoever you vote for, just make sure they do right by you and don't let them turn you into a chump. Malcolm used the word chump. I like the word chump. So we're going to start using that word. Let's not become political chumps. Type the word chumps in the chat, or say no chumps, like no chump, no political chumps. I don't care who you vote for. I really don't. I seriously don't. Some of you may go vote for Trump. I don't care. I don't care. Just don't be a chump. Let's keep going. Also, he talks about the economic philosophy of Black nationalism. You know, I love that part, that you should control the jobs and the businesses, the education, and everything that happens in your community. He talks about the fact that you've got businesses set up. For some reason, this kumbaya nonsense and the lack of economic education leads us to allow anybody and everybody, any old damn crazy person who wants to make $1 to go set up shop in the Black community, and there's no consequences for that. How in the hell are you letting anybody and everybody from every other community come in your community and just get buckets of money and then going home with that money and putting nothing back into the community? Do you know that makes them laugh at you? They're like, my God, like, what is wrong with these people? You know, what is up with their self-esteem? This is insane. So ultimately, he talks about a re-education program on Black dollars. Basically, you know, when you don't support your own community, it becomes run down. He said you shouldn't be surprised when your community falls apart because none of the resources are going into your community. Even your celebrities are not expected to give back to your community in a significant way. And if they do, you'll hear from some celebrity who will go invest $5-10 million in a white startup venture with some techie white boys in Silicon Valley. And then you say, well, what are you doing for the Black community? He'll say, oh, well, I gave $50,000 to the boys club. Well, $50,000 ain't the same as that $10 million. You gave $10 million to the white boys club, but you're going to give $50,000 to your own community? How about this? How about you go donate $50,000 to white people and you put that $10 million into your own community? You invest that $10 million into Black-owned businesses. Man, how about we do that? You don't want people doing charity for you. You want people making investments in you. Charity is for chumps and suckers and people that can't take care of themselves. Investment is what you want. Even when I talk to my kids, I got kids. Anybody else got kids that love to ask you for money and love to come to you to buy shit that they don't even really need or whatever, right? I got those same kids. We go through that. And the thing I tell my children and my godchildren, it's all the same, is I say, look, I don't do charity because you are not a charity case. I'm not doing welfare because you're not a welfare recipient. You're not disabled. You're not a senior citizen. You're not a child. But you know what I do? I make investments. So it would be very hard for you to get $100 in charity out of me, but very easy for you to get $1,000 investment out of me. And in fact, you should want investment and not charity because that's how you preserve your dignity. Because if I invest in you, investment is different from charity. Charity means I give you something and I get nothing back, and you're disabled because you don't feel like you can contribute anything to the family. Investment is reciprocal. Investment means I put something into you, you put something back into the family. You get stronger, I get stronger. I give you what you need, you give me what I need. I have your back, you have mine. Everything works together. So you don't want your celebrities giving you charity. You want your celebrities making investments. You know, Jay-Z, I don't care if Jay-Z gave $100,000 to the boys club. I want to hear about Jay-Z investing $50 million into some major economic development in the Marcy projects that's Black owned. Seriously, that's what I'd like to hear about, right? So anyway, let me keep going, but this is not about Jay-Z. So let's keep going here. Okay. One thing that Malcolm brings up that I really like is he talks about the fact that a lot of your so-called solutions to the trap that you're in are nothing more than bigger traps. He talks in particular about white liberals, you know, and this false idea that white liberals are our saviors and that white conservatives are our only enemy. And what has happened is that you have gained the false perception that an enemy of your enemy is going to be your long-term friend. No, an enemy of your enemy might also be your enemy. Instead of you thinking of it as a line that you and your enemy's enemy working together to defeat the enemy, no, it's really a triangle. It's that you think that because you met a Crip who hates the Bloods that y'all gonna be on the same team. No, maybe the Crips and the Bloods want to come kill you. Right? So basically you've got a triangle where you've got the liberals that want to use you, the conservatives that despise you. And so at the end of the day, you've got yourself. As John Hymer Clark used to say, Black people have no friends. At this point, right now, based on history, Black people have no true allies. Your only allies that you have are other Black people. And so at the end of the day, one of the things that I like is the fact that when he talks about the solution to the trap just being another trap, what that means to me is this. It means that your biggest challenge, right, as Black people tends to be this thing called systematic racism. And a lot of you think that there's no choice, that you have no choice but to face systematic racism. Well, at least when it comes to economics and education, you do have a choice. You always have a choice. If you think that the educational system's racist, you always have the option of educating your own kids, especially now with the internet. There's plenty of ways to educate your own children. And then also economically, you think that you have no choice but to go work for a white man and deal with whatever they deal with, whatever they throw at you. But that's because you've only been taught how to operate within the trap. Millions of people are figuring out like, hey, wait a minute, if I don't work for this white man, then I don't have to listen to anything that he tells me to do, right? So ultimately, when you talk about solving problems, you have to know how to think outside that box. And one of the biggest challenges that you have with liberals is liberals have good reason to believe in at least certain parts of the system. If you go, for example, if you talk about the Democratic Party, for example, the system works quite well for them. Bernie Sanders, the guy who's very much into wealth redistribution and stuff like that, he's not a bad politician. He's not a bad guy. Bernie Sanders makes over $1 million a year. The system works for him. It works very well for him. Barack Obama and his liberal buddies from Harvard, Harvard University controls the entire Supreme Court and has controlled the White House on almost every occasion. So the system works quite well for them. They have very good reason to be highly invested into the system. So I think that the question that Black people must ask ourselves is this: has the system worked for you? Has the system benefited you? Does the system make you feel empowered, or does the system make you feel oppressed? If the system makes you feel oppressed, then you need to leave the system and create systems of your own. Find alternative situations that will allow you to feel, back to that word, freedom, and the self-determination that you seek to have. The key areas to focus on are economics, education, and then also eventually criminal justice, which stems from economics. When Dr. Claude Anderson, in this book, Powernomics, which I keep next to my desk, I read it all the time. In this book, Dr. Anderson talks, and remember, pay attention now, all this blackety-black conversation that's supposedly happening now, ain't nobody talking about Powernomics, ain't nobody talking about Dr. Claude Anderson, despite the fact that millions of Black people love this man, that his book, Powernomics, was considered to be the Bible, the economic Bible for Black people back in 1993. Like, I think Ebony Magazine said this is the economic Bible for Black people. So the fact that they're not even having those conversations means that either they're deliberately pretending to be plain stupid, or they really are stupid. Right? They're either pretending to be naive or they really are naive. How in the fuck are you going to have conversations about moving forward to a new era of Blackness and you're talking to the same old Negroes about the same old stuff? Seriously, Al Sharpton is going to get paid off of this, right? This whole new commitment to Blackness means Al's going to get on about probably 20 or 30 different corporate boards. He's going to get big donations to the National Action Network. The NAACP is going to get over like gangbusters. And I don't even have a problem with that. I do not care about that. But the issue is that similar to the whole stimulus package, remember the problem with the stimulus was that when the money came out, it wasn't getting to the businesses that really needed it. It wasn't getting to the people that needed it the most. It was going to the big dogs that got to eat first. It wasn't getting to the little businesses, the little mom and pop shops that needed that capital, needed that liquidity. Well, the same thing is going to happen with this civil rights stimulus. Right now, you're living through a civil rights Black people stimulus where suddenly, because of the death of George Floyd, rest his soul, rest in peace, George, because of his death and the symbolism that represented and the horror and the tragedy and the trauma of his death, Black people are having all this money flooded into so-called Black initiatives and Black projects. That means the Black bougie Negroes are going to get paid off of this because they are the Negro whisperers. They're the connectors that white people feel comfortable with. So they're going to pay them to come in as diversity consultants. The best-selling books right now at Amazon are anti-racism books, right? So the authors of these books are going to do extremely well. The civil rights Negroes are going to do it really well because they're going to get invited to give lots of speeches and stuff like that. But and again, that's all okay. It's even okay for the NAACP to get money off of this. But what about the rest of the community, right? I want the rest of the community included in this. I want to know the difference between the real and the fake, because at the end of the day, any solution, any resources put behind any set of ideas that does not ultimately lead to that big word, the F word, freedom for Black people, self-determination for Black people, ownership of resources for Black people, is going to be a failed strategy. It's going to be a failed strategy. All it's going to do is put you out of one trap and put you in a bigger trap. Seriously, all it's going to do is accelerate the integration process, which will put you, it'll take you out of the iron jail cell and put you into the jail cell that's made out of silver, but you'll still be in a cell. And the minute you truly stand up and really try to do something that's a little bit different from the rest of the agenda, because remember, don't forget that the liberals have a whole list of agenda items that they expect you Negroes to align with. Y'all know what I'm talking about. They got a whole list of agenda items. Believe me, they're coming right up after this is over. Fine. But the minute you deviate, they're going to slap you like a bitch and remind you of who's paying your bills. Because I understand money and I understand power and I understand how money is linked to power. And I don't give a shit how friendly somebody pretends to be. I don't care how much somebody tells you that they just really want to help and that's it. Or I don't care how much somebody tells you, well, we respect your views. We really like the diversity and we just think it's great that you're here. That's a bunch of shit, because when it really hits the fan, when it gets to the point where you're in the same car and the person that's paying your bills wants to go east and you want to go west, they're going to remind you of who owns that car, who pays the car note, and who's behind the steering wheel. And then they're going to remind your little chumpy black ass that you don't even own a goddamn car. So when you get all these civil rights and then you get all these programs created for you, it's going to make your life better for sure, but it won't give you freedom and power. It give you a little bit. It'll give you the illusion of power, because some people, some people become babysitters, long-term babysitters and think that they're actually real parents. Right? Some people babysit a child so much that you really think you're the mama. You ever seen that where a lady she babysits a child, she's a nanny, she grows to love the children so much, she starts to feel like she's really their, like a mother replacement. And then the real mother comes along and reminds you of actually who's in charge, right? And that's kind of what you do. When you go and you're working for these companies, you're babysitting a job. You're babysitting somebody else's economic power. You'll walk around and you'll talk about, yeah, boss, we sick. And yeah, boss, our restaurant is doing really well. And you'll take pride in something that you don't even own. Just no different from gangbangers killing each other over blocks where they don't own any property on their block. You do that, right? Because you love your master, you're attached to your master. And so what I'm simply trying to say to you is that I'm hoping that some of you anyway will understand what the end game has to be. It does not mean that we can't go through this street of white guilt, I guess you call it that, white guilt. Like white guilt is funding a lot of shit right now. They're going to write big checks because of white guilt. And I think that's okay. But white guilt will never build black power on its own. Only black self-determination will build black power. So before you start taking checks from these folks, you must understand what you plan to do with that. If you don't know what you're going to do with that, then you're going to end up being a bigger sucker than you've ever been in your life. Because one other thing about money is that money is really a drug. Money is a drug. And the thing about that drug called money is it's like any other drug. If you think about it, a drug can be something that heals you, makes you better, it helps you feel healthier, right? That's a good drug. But a drug can also turn you into an addict, and it can also kill you, right? So when they're pouring these resources on you and pouring all this affection and love on you, unlike anything you've ever seen, I've never seen any time in my life where 10,000 white people got together and formed a black fist as an image. I saw them, they literally all lined up to form an image. Somebody took the picture from a drone and it looked like a big black fist. I've never seen anything like that. Maybe that means something. Maybe they're really trying. Like, I really am not a black person who believes all white people are bad. I'm just not like, I don't believe all white people are bad. I don't believe all cops are bad. I just don't. I'm sorry. Because I know cops who aren't bad, but I know systems that are bad, right? I know cops that follow orders from bad people and bad systems, and that leads to bad outcomes. But I just don't buy into that, right? I judge people individually. So I'm not saying that there's not some good intention behind some of this. In fact, I'm not even really talking so much about them. I'm really talking about you, and talking about you sort of keeping your eye on the ball and knowing what your objective is at the end of the day. So one of the other things Malcolm talked about, I'm gonna hit a couple more topics and then we'll bounce out, is he talks about liberty or death, meaning that, he talks about the American Revolution and how They had to use violence to achieve their goal. I don't think we have to be violent. I don't think we have to necessarily pull out guns and shoot people, although I believe black people should be gun owners. I think that's a great thing, but I don't think you have to have a bloody revolution. But what I do think you have to have is a messy revolution. And a messy revolution means that you're going to have some hard conversations and piss some people off in order to get them to respect you. You cannot spend so much time trying to get somebody to like you that you don't let them know, look, my friendship, I'm holding it for ransom. And if you don't come correct, then I'm not going to come correct with you. Also, he talked about the good cop, bad cop con game amongst the Democratic Party. And basically what he talked about is that a lot of the so-called good Democrats can't do right by black people because they had the Dixiecrats and the racist Democrats who were holding them back, right? So typically back then, as it is now, you had white folks that would use other white folks as an excuse for why they could not do anything for black folks. Malcolm asked that open question in 1965, how can you be his friend and my friend at the same time, right? Well, that's a question that could be asked today. If you recall, Joe Biden and Bill Clinton, when they passed that crime bill, when they sent hundreds of thousands of black people to prison in a very short period of time and destroyed hundreds of thousands of black families, they were basically the so-called good white guys, if that's what you want to call them, who were appeasing the racists by passing laws that were draconian and really Hitler level in terms of the amount of black extermination that was done under those crime bills, which, by the way, have not been repealed. If Joe Biden wants to have any conversation with me, he better start by saying he's going to work to repeal that crime bill. If you ain't trying to repeal that crime bill and let those people out, then I don't even want to talk to you. I have nothing to say to you. Right. So at the end of the day, he talks about this good cop, bad cop kind of thing where your so-called friends don't do anything for you and then they blame it on something else. And that's actually a negotiating strategy, believe it or not. Black people are in a big, epic negotiation with the world over what to do with our votes, what to do with our money. And let me just tell you a little bit of a negotiating strategy that they use against you. There's a strategy where you kind of play good cop, bad cop with somebody. So let's say you go to buy a car, right? And let's say that, the guy says, well, you can have this car for $10,000. That's my final offer. And then let's say that you don't want to be the bad guy and you want to pressure the person into making a move. So what you do is you might say, yeah, I think 10,000 is a great offer. Gosh, I'd like to buy that car for 10,000. But my wife refuses to pay anything more. I called her just now and she's telling me that if we don't get it for 9,200, I'm gonna have to walk away. I hate to do this to you, bud, but that's what my wife is gonna do, right? So this man may have not even talked to his wife. And car dealers do that to you in the other way around. You ever see where the car dealer will go back and say, let me go talk to the manager, and he ain't talking to nobody. He's pretending that the manager won't let him give you a better deal, right? They play those games with you, right? So basically, white folks play this game with you on a political level, on a very big scale. They will come, your so-called friends will come and try to get your vote. And then when you say, well, actually, for you to get my vote, you're going to have to do this and this and this. They'll come back and say, well, yeah, I'd like to do it, but there's nothing I can do because there are these other people. I'd love to do it for you, but I really would. But, Black Lives Matter, right? But these other people, they won't Congress won't let me do anything, right? That was the whole excuse during the whole Obama presidency. Think about that. Remember when people would say that Obama should fight for this and fight for that? And every time, people that were apologists for that presidency and the things that did not get done would always say, yeah, he wants to do it, but that Congress won't let him do nothing. Those racists and those racist Republicans won't let him do nothing. And what y'all don't understand, because I actually had a chance to negotiate with that administration, is there was a lot of shit they did not want to do for black people. Why would you pay extra for an item that you've already gotten at a discount? Seriously, why would you, if black folks come cheap, if they know that black people can be bought for $1.50, why would they pay $10 for a $1.50 product, right? So basically, by laying ourselves out as political hoes, meaning that we were giving ourselves away cheap, they were like, we don't have to do anything for black people, and people will worship this man like he's Jesus himself. Like, that's literally what their mindset was. When Russell Simmons and I got 150 celebrities and politicians to sign a letter asking the Obama administration to simply change their policy on mass incarceration. And we got a lot of people. The letter's out there. One day I'll email it to you guys so you can check it out. But we sent this letter to the Obama administration, and I wrote the letter out. And the first version I wrote, Russell said, "No, Boyce, you're being kind of hard on the president. Let's, tone it down a little bit, try it again." So I went back and I said, okay, I'm gonna try to be extra nice. I'm gonna channel Friendly Boyce because I really want to get this done. So I channeled Friendly Boyce and I wrote this letter, and I wrote it in a really supportive way, like, hey, we think you're great, blah, blah, blah. A bunch of shit I didn't believe, to be honest with you. But I did it because I want to get these brothers and sisters out of jail. And so we wrote this letter. And then we went and got all these people to sign this letter. And I'm talking about a great diverse coalition. You had the black celebrities. You had Will and Jada signed it, and I forgot, people like Chris Rock and Jamie Foxx signed it. And then you even had white people sign it. The Kardashian signed it. What was it? Justin Bieber signed it. White people I don't even talk to. And so we take this letter to the Obama administration, and we're thinking, okay, this is going to be, a downhill kind of thing. Like, we're running with the wind in our back. He's saying that he wants to do these things, so now we're helping him, right? We're letting them know what the people want. They say black people don't have an agenda, so we're giving you an agenda. We're letting you know what black people want, and we got celebrities on deck, and we got college presidents from the HBCUs to sign, and all this, right? They fought us every single step of the way, and they fought dirty. I mean, I walked away from that whole experience thinking, my God, Valerie Jarrett, in my opinion, was the biggest bitch I'd ever met in my life. I said, my God, if black people knew what we're dealing with right now, the threats that are being made to Russell, in the way they literally didn't want to do anything and did everything to suppress that letter and to keep it from coming out. They didn't want the public to see the letter with all those signatures on it. And you know what saved it? Do you know what forced their hand? It was literally, I'm just being honest with you guys. I'm telling you the honest to God truth. Justin Bieber. Justin Bieber's little white ass is the reason that they eventually had to make a move. Justin Bieber tweets out the letter, the hashtag, it was end the war on drugs or something like that. He tweets the hashtag out, and suddenly it becomes the number 3, most trending hashtag in the world. And that's when they couldn't ignore it. And that's the very next day or 2 days later, Attorney General Eric Holder made one of the most significant policy announcements on mass incarceration in the last 20 or 30 years. And I walked away from that situation feeling like, okay, we won, we did it. We were excited, but I was pissed. I was so mad because I said, wait a minute, you're supposed to be our guy. It ain't supposed to be this hard to get y'all to do the right thing. Why was it so hard to get you to simply express love for a people that believes deeply that you love them? It's like going to a father who says he loves his child, and the child loves the father and believes in her daddy, and you go to the daddy and find out the daddy you got to beat his ass to get him to go visit his child one time. And you're like, my God, this child knew how much you don't love him. The child will be devastated. Like, that's how I felt, and so that rage in terms of these politicians and how they play us, it leaves me furious. It leaves me furious to the point where I think black people deserve better than that. I'm not telling you, again, not to vote for Joe Biden. You can do whatever you want. I'm just telling you that it's a damn shame that people that claim to love you can act as if they hate you. It's a damn shame that people who claim to have your back never have your back. It's a damn shame that the people that you consider to be your best friends in the world treat you worse than a fucking enemy. They don't even respect you enough to see you as an adversary. They see you as, to use Malcolm's word, they see you as a bunch of damn chumps. So I'm not telling you what to do or what not to do or how to change what you're doing. I'm just saying, don't be a fucking chump when you go do it. That's it. So I'm done. I'm going to go ahead and stop talking. I took that liberty to add a little bit my own interpretation to what Malcolm said in his speech. Here's what I encourage you to do. Have your children watch the Ballot or the Bullet speech. That should be their primary education. Have them, let's get some Marcus Garvey speeches. Let's listen to what Marcus said. How many of y'all heard any Marcus Garvey speeches or read any Marcus Garvey speeches, books, anything in school when you grew up? How many of y'all, yes or no, right? A lot of you are probably going to say no, right? So let's really do this fucking thing. Like, let's really take over this educational process. Let's educate ourselves. So if you're hanging out on this platform, that's one of the things we're gonna do. I'm gonna start going and pushing myself to go find the stuff that we need to be talking about, so that when we sit down with these folks that claim to want to be our friends, we can at least go in armed with knowledge and history and strategy and know how to make sure that you do right by Black people. That's it. So everybody type hashtag B1 in the chat if you want, if you agree with me that Black people come first. If you agree that our community should be number one, let's put our hashtag B1 in. Also, if you want to continue the conversation afterward, use the hashtag Black Movie Night on any social media platform, and that way I'll be able to find it. You can even post images or of your family or things that you and your family are doing. I'd love to hear what you guys are doing to educate your family, educate your kids. You have the power of the universe in your hands, because that's your house. It's quarantine time. That's your opportunity to really take over this damn thing and to do things in a way that you want to do it. Also, thirdly, I want to say I appreciate the fact that you guys took the time to come hang out with us. We're going to find more great Black-owned films to show you. If you want your film to be featured in a Black Movie Night, you can email a producer at flynubianmedia.com. That's producer at flynubianmedia.com. Somebody type that in, producer at flynubianmedia.com. Just send your film. We'll take a look. We're also going to do a trailer competition. Rick Mathis is going to do a trailer competition for whoever has the best trailer. We'll also show those films in Black Movie Night. And then last but not least, some of you asked about this. We're doing in the Black Business School, which, by the way, we're almost at 100,000 students. The Black Business School wants to be the #1 HBCU on earth with the lowest cost but the highest quality. We're doing a real estate wholesaling seminar next Wednesday. So I'm going to give you guys the link, and you can actually come to the seminar for 45% off. The regular price is $99, but you can get in for about $51 or something like that with this link. And so what I'm going to do is I'll just email it to you. I can't, for some reason, this thing keeps freezing every time I hit the button, so I'm not going to try to do that. So just sign up. If you haven't signed up on our list and you want to learn to buy your first share of stock and get free financial information and advice into your email, go to firstshareofstock.com. That's firstshareofstock.com, and you can register there as well. And we have plenty of resources for you guys. So thank you for hanging out with us. I apologize that if I keep disappearing and going in and out. I love you very much, and I appreciate your time, and I hope you guys have a good night, and I will see you soon. Take care. Peace. I don't know if you guys can hear me or not, but it looks like, okay, there we go. All right, so I'll see you guys later. This thing keeps freezing, so have a good night, and you'll hear from me real soon. I'll send you guys an email. Take care. Bye-bye.